Well, I've already been talking about In From the Cold on Netflix. The series is now streaming. It's a cool new spy series, but also so much more than that. And one of the reasons for that is because of Maggie and the young lady who plays Maggie, Lola Rae Loughran, is joining me right now. Lola, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
So, Lola, correct me if I'm wrong now, but this is your first major series role, correct?
Yes, this is my first major series role.
So what was that like? I mean, you've done guest starring stuff in a lot of really cool things, but what was it like to really be able to expand on a character more and be more of a series regular?
It was honestly, it was so great. It was really nice to have a character and take her through like a whole series rather than just like, oh, like one episode here, one episode there, like small, small arcs. It was nice to see a character through on a journey and also have a character that interacts with like a big overarching storyline. It was really nice. And it was fun to be there for I was there until maybe like 2, 3 weeks from the end. So it was nice to spend like a full time on a project and like hang out with everyone and not just like disappear, like be in for a couple of weeks and then just disappear, never be seen again.
No doubt about that. So this is a really interesting show. I thought I loved it really from the start when I started watching it. So when you started first getting the scripts and you were starting to get into the role of Maggie, what was your first impression of the show and of her?
Well, I originally auditioned for Becca. So I originally went up for the daughter.
Oh wow,
And
that would have been
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And they when I went up for it, there was a couple of scenes. To a scene from episode one, which I think possibly was the scene with Maddie in the ice rink, and then another one with Jenny. And they gave you episodes one and two. So you did find out the twist. I knew the twist from like the early twists from the auditioning process. And then about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from my agent and they were like, hi, basically, they might want to see you for Maddie. They're thinking of you for the best friend. And I was like, oh, okay, well, just let me know what they want from me, thinking that I was going to have to like go back in, audition, do another recall, stuff like that. And then probably 2 weeks after that, my agent called me. And I remember because she woke me up and I was like, hello, like trying to pretend that I was already awake because I worked like a closing shift at a shop the night before. And she was like, oh, so you're spending the summer in Spain. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, they just want to cast you as Maddie. And I was like, okay, cool, thank you. So yeah, obviously that was back in 2020. So that was when it was originally going to shoot, which was going to be March to July.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was how I got into it. So it was weird because she was also the first character where I hadn't seen like a character breakdown. Obviously, because I'd never auditioned for the role, I'd never seen a character breakdown. I didn't know kind of any preconceptions of the character, so I didn't know what they had said to like casting of like what they were looking for and stuff like that. So I kind of was like, okay, let me read through the episode one and two that I have. I think between when they were like, oh, they're thinking of you for the role and getting it, I
Mhm.
was like, well, let me read through one and two and see the bits that she has and try and get a feel for the character. Um, so yeah, a lot of my prep work was like when we started film, like the rehearsals and when we got out there. And I liked the character, and I just knew that I didn't want her to be a stereotype.
Mhm.
I was like, I don't want her to just be the best friend character. Like I want her to kind of stand on her own. Um, so I did like Maddie, and it's someone who's on the outside, but kind of can see hints of like what might be going on, or just knowing that something's not quite right, like something's happening, but also wants to focus on themselves. And they're like, well, I have a competition I have to do. Other stuff is going on, but still there's this competition.
Right,
And I thought it was
right.
quite nice that everyone else has all these complicated things. And she's kind of like, yeah, yeah, but I need to skate though. So
Yeah, I've got things to kind of prepare for, kind of important moment for me. So, speaking of that though, what's it like when you see that and you go, "Oh, by the way, I hope you can skate because that's going to be part of it." So, did you have any experience doing that, or did you like, "Oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to learn this on the fly"?
well, when I auditioned for Becca, initially like my agent was like, she's an ice skater, you don't have to skate. Like they've said you don't have to
Okay.
be a figure skater. You don't have to like really know how to skate. they're going to deal with that. And I was like, okay. And I hadn't gone ice skating since I was 16. So this was like a good couple of years ago. I was like, I haven't been ice skating since then, just because there's not many ice rinks in London for some reason, not near me. Um, and so then they asked in the room, they were like on tape, they were like, well, what's your ice skating experience? And I was like, yeah, I can skate like recreationally. I don't fall over, really. And then when I got it, they were like, yeah, don't worry. They were still like, don't worry, because there's going to be doubles. We're going to teach you how to skate. And I was like, okay. Flew out there, got fitted for my skates, flew back, flew out there again with our skates. And they were like, yeah, your ice skating lessons are starting. We were like, cool. And I had never done this much exercise in my life. Like the sessions it was 2 hours every day for a month, I'm pretty sure. And then it was still just whenever we were free, we did 2-hour sessions pretty much. And we had personal training as well on top of this. And I thought I was going to die. Like the first 2 weeks of skating lessons, my body was screaming at me. And we had like PAs. We had these PAs that we had to call to be like, hi, can you go to the pharmacy and get us this? And can you go to the supermarket? Because they didn't really want us like leaving. And all of us, like me and Lydia, who plays Becca, were like, please, Sophia, please, we need ice packs, we need heat packs, we need ibuprofen, I need ibuprofen gel, just whatever there is that will help this. And I think I actually brought the ice pack home. Like she bought me like a really good gel ice pack, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to take this with me. And I think I brought like all the gel home, like arnica. I had like these compression socks at one point, like all this like icy hot. We were like, please, we just
I'd have
need
been filling the
anything to help.
bathtub with just bags of ice and just laying in that.
Essentially, I think Lydia may have ordered Epsom salts. It reached a point where we knew what
Wow.
Marguerite was doing, and we felt really bad about complaining, but we were like, I'm in agony.
You'll be
I am in
watching the Winter
agony,
Olympics a completely different way now. That's funny.
pretty much.
So you talked about shooting in Madrid. What was it actually like shooting there, and what was your favorite part about being there during that time?
I think my favorite part of being there, and I think having to film the way we did, where we all had to isolate together, and we essentially lived in these 2 hotels for the whole of filming, and it really brought us closer together and allowed us to bond way stronger than we would have, I imagine, if it had just been a lot of us flying in and out. So I spent a lot of time, particularly towards the end, with Charles, who plays Chris, and Jeremy, who plays Suyin. And I wouldn't have seen either of them because I don't have scenes with them. I definitely don't have any scenes with Jeremy because he's all the flashbacks. And so it was nice to like hang out with people where you're like, I probably would have never seen you because when would our paths have crossed? Like our paths wouldn't have crossed that much. And we used to spend like the weekends like playing the Switch or like playing the PS4. And so it was really nice. And I think, yeah, it was a lot less isolating because I was a bit worried because it's kind of like, okay, I'm spending 5-6 months in a foreign country. I essentially can't leave the house because that was kind of what we were told. We were like, you can't go cinema, can't go here, can't go there. We could barely go to the supermarket. And so I was a bit like, oh, I hope I make friends. It's kind of like starting boarding school or something. Like, oh, I hope I make friends. I hope I have a good time. And yeah, it was really nice. Obviously, Madrid's a lovely city anyway. It's a beautiful city as it is. And it was nice to kind of, we could go on walks and experience the city not as tourists because we couldn't really do touristy things. So, but it really was like we were just living there in a giant house share. It was mad, but really nice. It was one of my best filming experiences.
It sounds like that was definitely a lot of fun, though. So that's really, really cool. When you're watching this show, if anybody that's had a chance to dive into it, there just seems to be such a unique bond between Maddie and Becca. How would you kind of describe their bond? And are we talking like more than just best friends at this point, you think?
Well, I think it's kind of open up to interpretation, definitely. How I spoke about it with Adam when just before filming, when we each had sit downs with him. So I have been friends with my best friend for I think almost 15 years now.
Wow.
But I'm not, yeah, it's a very long time since I was about 10. So about almost 15 years. And obviously Becca and Maddie, kind of the backstory we came up with was that they had been friends since they were very young. So like kindergarten, maybe like first, second grade. And that's when they started skating together and things like that. And so I went into it and was like, well, my relationship with my best friend is that we're like sisters now. So it's kind of, to me, I was like, that's a sister relationship. I feel it's obviously, it may get written differently, it may get interpreted differently,
Mm-hmm.
but I was kind of like, that's a sister relationship, particularly as it goes along, and kind of like how you fall out with a sibling, and that kind of sometimes when there's tension between the two of you, and it's that kind of thing of like, oh, there's food in the fridge, like we're still good, yeah. And that's kind of how I viewed their relationship, particularly on like Maddie's side, that kind of thing of I am concerned for you and about you, but I don't always go about it the right way. But that's teenagers as well.
Oh,
That's
no
teenage
doubt. Yeah.
friendships.
You made it true to life, so that's always a good thing. And one of the other things I really like, not just about Becca, but about Maddie as well. I don't want to say that they're outcasts, but they definitely march to the beat of their own drum, which is really, really. How cool was that for you to like? Well, so you could say they're outcasts, but they're not. They're like, you know, you guys go be stupid. We're gonna go do our thing and have fun.
Yeah, that was definitely something that I wanted to put in for Maddie, because on the page you could maybe read it as like she's a super popular girl who like is in with the in crowd, but then just has this best friend that she's had for years who is like a bit weird. And I went to Adam and I was like, no, I kind of want it where Maddie doesn't like these other girls. Like she isn't really friends with them. She's just good at skating. And so they're like, oh, like she's our friend because she's really good. And really she's like, no, I actually don't like any of you. Like she's my best friend. I'm just here. Like I just ended up in this situation. I don't really like any of you. But she's one of those girls where I was like, if she's popular, it's kind of against her will. She's just kind of going along with the flow. But she's like, no, here's my real friend. And this is who I want to actually spend my time with.
It just says it all in episode 1, and I really, really love that. If anybody, when you see it, there's a scene at the hotel that's perfectly describes that whole situation she's just talking about, which I really, really loved. Now let's get into the whole situation with the parents, because
Yep.
that's where it gets a little bit weird and a little bit awkward. So, I mean, again, we don't want to spoil anything, obviously, but how do you think that Maddie's going to react if she really finds out what's going on with Jenny?
I personally, from like bits that I put in, whether I don't think some of them made the show, some of my improv moments, I think that, and from what I discussed with Adam, I think Maddie would roll with it. I think she'd be like, okay, a lot of things now make sense. Let's go with it. Let's just keep it moving. Because I remember I said to Adam, I was like, she would have known if her and Becca have been friends since they were kids, she's then known Jenny since she was a kid.
Exactly.
And I put in a lot of bits where I was like, oh, your mom's just like overprotective. I quite like her. I think she's cool. Like, I don't know what you're complaining about. Like, my mom is always on my case. So I think you should be grateful. So I think she would roll with it. I think it'd be one of those ones she'd be like, wow, cool. A bit like the kid on the lawn in The Incredibles. He's like, wow, that's amazing.
Oh, yes. What a great example. I love
genuinely think she'd be like that.
that. That is so cool. We're talking to Lola Rae Loughran, who cosplays Maddie on In From the Cold from Netflix, which you can watch right now. All episodes are now streaming. It got me thinking, though, Lola, and I wanted to ask you this. How would you react if you found out today that your mom was a spy?
Again, I think I would roll with it personally. I think I'd be like,
Awesome.
okay, cool. What can you do? I'd probably ask inappropriate questions like, so how many people have you killed?
Oh, I'd have 1,000 questions, and that would be the first one.
I need to know. I'd be like, where have you been? What have you done? What kind of spy are we talking here?
And once the cat's out of the bag, she might as well tell you, right? It's not like
Yeah,
the secrets need to
exactly.
be kept at this point.
I'd be like, are you training me? What are we doing? How did you get into it? Is it a family legacy? How does it work?
So here's another thing I was thinking about, because would it surprise you at some point, and again, I don't want to talk any spoilers or anything like that, but would it surprise you at some point if we find out that maybe Maddie's got some secret skills? Not necessarily that she's a spy, but maybe she's got some skills that she's been hiding from everybody a little bit.
Well, this is what I always made Adam and Chris Barber laugh because I was like, yeah, I can throw knives, yeah. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah, I can throw knives. I learned how to throw knives in middle school. I know how to shoot bow and arrow. I did archery. And they'd just be like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, these are the things that I know how to do. I'm just letting you know. Like, if we go again, I think I said to Chris at one point, I was like, if we go again, I want either to throw knives or fire a gun. I want one of the two.
I'm telling you right now, if I get a vote, I'm voting throw knives because that would be terrifying for me. Like,
exactly.
Obviously guns are scary, right? But you see somebody pull out a knife and chuck it and it like sticks in the wall next to your head or something, I'd be gone. I'd be out of there. That is where does someone learn how to do? I have to ask because you said you've been doing it since middle school. I have to know, where does someone learn their knife throwing skills?
It was I went to a Steiner school between the ages of 11 to I think I was 14, so a couple of years, and they do a lot of like wilderness survival stuff like that. And we went on a camping trip and we got given knives to do like whittling, and we were kind of like, okay, can we throw them? And they were like, yeah, okay, sure, we'll show you how to throw the knives. And like we spent a whole afternoon throwing knives. And it was really fun. And then archery was the same school. They were like, yeah, so for gym, you're going to do archery. I think we also learned circus skills. So I knew how to walk on a tightrope and ride a unicycle as well.
Can we do all of those things together, or is that just not safe? Because that's another level of, I could just see, they're trying to escape from somewhere, and here's Maddie on a unicycle going from one building to another, just chucking knives at people. I just think if you could pull that off, more power to you. I mean, that would be incredible.
Crack that joke. I was like, I can't drive, but I can throw knives. So whatever
you and I went to very different schools, is all I'm saying. That's why couldn't I go to that school? Because that would have been a lot of fun. Wow, that's crazy. So obviously, I was going to ask about hopes for season 2, but I guess that's one of them. But do you have any more hopes for Maddie in season 2, or just the show in general?
For the show in general, I think my one hope is, one, I hope we go again, and two, talking to Adam, because they kind of want to put each series in a different place, in a different city. And I was rooting for Berlin because I speak German.
Ooh, yes.
And my whole thing about living in Spain was that everyone thought I spoke Spanish, like particularly because of my name. And I do not speak Spanish. Do not speak that much Spanish. I would panic and be like, I don't know. Yo no sé. And but German I speak. I was like, I could handle myself, and no one would expect me to speak German. So can we please go to Berlin? And I think they finally cracked and was like, yeah, Berlin's one of the top places if we go again. I was like, thank you very much.
Oh, that would be so cool. I could so see this show in Berlin for sure. That would be wunderbar as far as I'm concerned. So that's my wife speaks German, so I picked up a little bit of it myself. But I wanted to ask you this before I let you go, because you think of other spy genres. You think of like Jason Bourne. You think of John Wick. You think of Black Widow, for lack of a better way. So I'm thinking about Anya/Jenny, and I'm thinking, okay, would she team up with Black Widow, or would this be a situation where she's kind of trying to take her down? So where do you think that would stand if we got that team up somehow, some way? Where do you think that would stand? Do you think?
I think it depends. If we're going MCU Black Widow, I think it would be a versus situation. I think it would be Jenny versus Black Widow. If we're talking about Black Widow in the comics, it might be a team up. It depends. It depends on what arc and what universe we're discussing.
Look at you with the comics flex. I love that. Oh, that is so great. I love it. And I don't disagree with you at all, which is awesome. That is so cool. And what could she take her, though? That's the question.
Oh, I think she could. I've seen Margarita in action. We saw some of their stunt sequences. I think she could take her.
Oh, the gauntlet is thrown down, and that is why we definitely need a season 2 now. Event from the Cold. To see season 1, though, on Netflix, make sure you're streaming that thing. Tell everybody about it, too, because this show is so unique. It's so cool, and it's something you're definitely going to want to add to your Netflix list. It's Lola Mae Loughran, who plays Maddie. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I appreciate it.
No problem.